Pope Leo XIV continues to surprise. The papacy began with tension and symbolism. The white smoke cleared and the name Leo was pronounced from the loggia of St. Peter's. The world glimpsed the beginning of a pontificate both steeped in history and freighted with contemporary meaning. In Pope Leo XIV, formerly Cardinal Robert Prevost, we see not merely the first American-born pope, but the re-emergence of an old vision, a church that speaks with confidence into the fractures of a failing world and a faltering world, a fractious world. The symbolism had already begun in earnest, and no moment more delicately captured the spirit of the papacy than the exchange of the ring between Cardinal Tagle and the new pope. And at the inaugural mass, it was Cardinal Tagle who performed this deed, who slipped the fisherman's ring onto Pope Leo's finger. Not merely a gesture of continuity, but of trust and intimacy. And reports now confirm that Tagle had earlier given Prevost his own episcopal ring during the conclave, a quiet act of fraternity in the middle of the solemnity of succession. Now, in a poetic turn, Pope Leo has named Tagle as the Cardinal Archbishop of Albano, the very suburban see, the very suburban church that Leo himself had held until days before. Each cardinal has a church in Rome, and Leo has given his old church to Cardinal Tagle. The symbolism is impossible to ignore. The handing over of Albano is both an elevation and a benediction, a continuation of the trust between two men who have been shaped by the global South, trained in pastoral work, animated by Vatican II's emphasis on dialogue, dignity, and mission. And if Tagle was seen as too liberal, this is a statement of significant friendship. And yet, as ever in Rome, sentiment is only half the story. Power moves in subtle ways beneath a marbled stillness. As Pope Leo was stepping onto the world stage, the most senior American president was not a bishop, but a politician, Vice President J.D. Vance, a Catholic convert, a populist tribune, and a fierce critic of mass immigration. And Vance stands for the exact forces that Pope Leo has warned against: a hardening of national identity, a suspicion of outsiders, a gospel bent out of shape by the anxieties of the post-industrial resentment that has grown up, being fueled by Trump and by the MAGA bunch, the MAGA base. And during the conclave, an account associated with Prevost reposted an article skewering Vance's misuse of Ordo Amoris, this Thomistic hierarchy of love, to justify the ranking of compatriots above migrants. And the article was blunt: Jesus doesn't ask us to rank our love for others. Progressives rejoiced, a papacy to confront populism perhaps, but the truth, as ever, is more intricate. The church at its core is an empire, not in the colonial sense, but in the theological and institutional DNA of the church. It's universalized salvation, adopted Roman structures, and the offer of a home to all nations, panta ta ethne. And yet it's always needed to translate its message into the vernacular of each age. In the 19th century, that meant engaging with the challenge of nationalism itself. In the 21st century, it means responding to both populism and globalization. And Vance, to his credit, sees something predatory in modern liberal transnationalism, a form of empire that dissolves solidarity in favor of markets and elite autonomy. He may be wrong to imagine Christ preaching border controls, but he's not wrong to detect the liberal universalism that has become disembedded from community responsibility and belonging. His identification of the problem, I think, may well be correct. His solution is wrong. And Leo XIV, like Leo XIII before him, knows this. His social teaching will not be a mere continuation of Pope Francis's, nor a rejection. It will be a synthesis. Pope Leo is an Augustinian. His spirituality is rooted in the tension between the city of God and the city of man, between the eternal and the temporal. And this will lend his papacy a distinct interior depth, less showy than John Paul, less improvisatory than Francis, more scholastic, more ordered. He is, we mustn't forget, a mathematician and a canon lawyer. He sees structure not as an enemy of compassion, but as its necessary frame. He will not bless populism, but neither will he blindly defend neoliberal technocracy. His name, Leo, signifies an affinity with rerum novarum and its defence of labour, dignity, and the just wage. Vance may find in Leo a critic, but not a caricature. The two men may yet speak across the gulf. And the Church's response to the alienated northern working class must not be one of pious indifference, nor should it preach universalism without roots. As Pope Francis wrote, even the most open church needs to speak to a people, a patria, a family. The challenge is to love the stranger without disdaining the neighbour. And this is what Pope Leo XIV inherits. A papacy begins not in silence but in gesture, a ring passed, a seat entrusted, a smile offered from the Pope-mobile to the crowds of Samoa, Peru and Rome alike. His challenge is to hold together a church stretching across nationalisms and scepticisms, welcoming both the migrant and the miner, both the barrio and the rust belt. And perhaps that's why Cardinal Tagle offered him a suite in the conclave, a moment of levity, a token of humanity, in the middle of the weight of empire. And Leo XIV's papacy is already casting long symbolic shadows. His embrace of Tagle, his quiet criticism of Vance are not accidents. They are indicators of a style, deliberate, pastoral, rooted in tradition, but not afraid to meet the world where it hurts. He will not mimic Francis, nor will he return to the polish of Benedict. He is entering the papal apartment. They're very small. The papal apartment is very small. The Pope's bedroom is in the corner, and then there's a spare room, and then there's a dining room, and there's a large area for the chapel, and that's basically it. There's a little study. You go down a corridor, a series of rooms, actually, interconnected rooms. I think it's a study, a library, a study, and then there's two doors, one leading into the Pope's bedroom, one leading into a corridor which would lead to the spare room and the Pope's dining room. That's it. Very small. Very small. He may surprise us all by offering a faith not merely global, but also capable of speaking plainly to the forgotten hearts of the West. In a church of worn cassocks and eternal truths, perhaps that's the greatest gift he can give. And to speak plainly, to speak openly, and I hope also to speak warmly.